Just a few stuff I had to put together. This thing's for the display rack for the boat. So like when you're not driving the boat, you can just like put your boat on this and like display or something. I'm probably not going to use this though. These are the two batteries. They're DC batteries, and yeah, they're 7.4 volts, and they have 600 mAh, and yeah, these are lithium-ion batteries, which is pretty cool actually. There's two, so I can interchangeably use them. So this boat has a better range. And yeah, here's the main body of the boat. I'll get into that later. And here's the charger for it. And this is the waterproofing cap for the boat to protect its electronics. Even though everything already is waterproofed inside, but you know, it's just in case. And this is just the lid for the boat. So yeah, this is the remote. It's a 2.4 gigahertz remote control, and that's more than enough for all your boating needs pretty much. I actually have a good lake that's pretty close to me, and I'm gonna use this boat in that lake obviously on top of the bridge. And there's really simple controls, just forward, backwards, turning, and that's basically it, because that's basically all you need. So now I'll get into the boat. It's going to be a little hard to see, but yeah, as you can see, this thing right here, it's the servo. This is in charge of turning a boat. It's basically a tiny motor that spins like to a certain degree of angle. And yeah, as you can see, it pushes this fin using this, and yeah, lets it turn. You can see that probably. Yeah, you can. Okay, good. And the battery is supposed to go here. This thing in front is a motor. And yeah, it's a DC motor because I'm using a DC battery, so obviously I had to use a DC motor. And over here is the control panel for the boat, and I'm not going to take it apart because I probably can never put it back together ever again. And this thing right here, I'm not so sure what it does. It wraps around the boat, and I'll try to figure out what it does when I get to it. And it also leads back here. I think it's supposed to be something to like drain the boat maybe. I'm not sure. I'll try to figure it out. Okay, so I did some research, and I'm still not completely sure, but I think this tube right here is so it could detect when the boat is in water, because obviously you do not want to accidentally like move this remote and make this boat run on land and make the propellers hit something in the back. So yeah. And another few things to talk about, especially in the back, these two things, they're for stability and turning. They're also on surfboards. They basically act like miniature vortex generators. So a vortex generator works in a pretty complicated way, and it's usually on planes more often. But basically what it does is that when this thing turns, the water gets this thing basically acts like a wing, and it pushes the water and twirls it around. I think you can kind of see how it works. It goes like that. And then because it's pushing off to this side would have lower pressure since it's going faster. So naturally the water would try to go to the other side, and it'll form this small vortex. And yeah, because spinning stuff are more stable than moving stuff, you probably know that. It's called gyrokinetic stability or something like that. Yeah, this helps keep the boat stable when it's turning, and it also gives it more grab when it turns, so it could turn sharper. And these lines down here, they're just for stability for the boat, and they're also to help keep the water even as it's going past, because obviously you do not want the water going like that. These things kind of guide the water towards the back over here. And as you can see, for boat propellers, they're pretty different compared to airplane propellers. They're much shorter, but they're also wider. They're kind of leaf shaped. And that's because water has a much higher density than air, and yeah, so you need like something that's more grab, and water has a much higher viscosity as well, so you don't really want long blades because you might overwork the engine or the motor for it. And so yeah, that's why these propellers are much smaller and much thicker compared to airplane propellers. One last thing to talk about is that for this battery, it actually lets this boat travel over 20 kilometers an hour, and that's pretty fast, and that's also a little scary because I don't want to crash this thing and sink it. because it costed quite a lot actually. And for this thing, there's two wires. This one's for plugging into the boat, the red one, and this white one right here is for charging. And yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say. And as you can see, while my boat's charging, I decided to make my airplane, and you can probably tell that this is going to be much harder than making the boat just from looking at this. So yeah, as you can see, I'm starting to take the pieces out, but unfortunately, because I'm using my computer to watch a tutorial, I can't actually film my process. So basically, this is all I can do. I can just like build part of it and record a video, and then build another part and record another video. So sorry about that. I can't use my phone to film my other because I don't have a tripod stand or something. And building this is going to take quite a long time. So the disadvantage of this is that because the tail is facing downwards, it's actually counteracting the lift generated by the wing. So that's why it's important to keep your tail section as neutral angle as you can possibly get, because this tail section is pushing the airplane downwards and this wing section is pushing the airplane upwards. And obviously for an airplane, you want more force that lifts it upwards. So yeah, that's pretty important. And this vertical stabilizer is pretty simple. It's literally just like a fin that helps this plane not yaw like this. Because without it, this plane can basically spin around like a frisbee. And yeah, that's why you need one of these. However, for flying wing, they don't have these vertical stabilizers, because the wing is actually swept backwards, which I will try to explain in another way, because this airplane, as you can see, it does not have swept wings. Now I'm going to test out my boat first, because, well, I'm at the lake. I wouldn't fly my plane in the lake, would I? So, yeah. Put this together. And there, as you can see, my boat is done. So now I'll go put it in the water and see if it works. I finally figured out what this tube is for. Apparently, it's for discharging this boat. Like, in case you had to go a long time without using this boat, then you obviously want to discharge it so the battery doesn't wear out. See, the boat works. Sorry for filming vertically because I did not want to drop my phone in the water. Yeah. As you can see, this thing can go pretty fast. And it's turning for some reason. And also, another weird thing is that it can turn in one direction a lot sharper than the other. I think it has to do, I think it's because of the way the servo's in position. I don't think the servo's in the straight position right now. But as you can see, it works perfectly fine. And it's actually pretty fast. Let me give you a demonstration. See, it's pretty fast. So yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with this boat. And I'll go test my airplane now. Test. I already checked the center of gravity. It's in a pretty good place. I checked it indoors, of course, because right now there's some slight winds, and it's going to make it very hard for me to check the center of gravity. So I'm just going to throw it in a direction and see how it goes. Without further ado, I'll just throw this and see how it goes. That was a very bad throw. Let's try that again, but I'm going to try to throw it better. Huh, that worked pretty well. Previous attempts, this plane kept trying to fly to the right, so this time I shifted the wing to the right slightly, so the right will have more lift, and I think it's going to either turn in the other direction or fly better. Let's see. And right now I'm flying headwind, so this plane isn't as light and as floaty as other gliders I've flown, and that's actually not a bad thing, because if there's wind, then the other gliders would just get blown away like a piece of paper. But because this thing actually has more momentum because it's more heavy, I'm going to see how it goes. And once again, it flew right. I got a really good flight, but I forgot to record it, so I'm going to try it again and try to replicate it. Okay, so that was pretty good. It wasn't as good as my other throw, because my other throw, the plane flew without turning whatsoever. But yeah, that was a pretty good flight. As you can see, this thing actually glides pretty well for something this heavy and this small. And I would also like to elaborate on why this thing is more stable than other planes. Well, in physics, momentum is equal to mass times velocity. Sorry, I've been running around chasing this glider. But yeah, momentum is equal to the mass times velocity. And the impulse formula is that the force times the change in time is equal to the mass times the change in velocity. So because this thing has more mass, it also has more momentum, and that means that it requires more force in order to get this plane to change directions or change speed or whatever. So yeah, for a light plane, it doesn't have that much momentum because it's light. And sorry, there's an ice cream truck in the background. But yeah, for a regular plane, for a light plane, it doesn't have much momentum. So it doesn't need that big of a wind to push the airplane off course. But because this plane is more is heavier, that means it has more momentum. So as you can see, it isn't as affected by wind. Oh, that was a good throw. And yeah, that means, well, wind will affect this airplane much less than lighter planes. So yeah, that's why I'm not sure if you noticed, but for aviation, if you have a big jumbo jet like a Boeing 747 or Airbus A380, you can actually fly those into bigger clouds than you can if you're in a smaller plane, like let's say a McDonnell Douglas ND-80, because yeah, basically what I said, it's heavier, so it requires a larger impulse to get it to change direction, so it won't be blown around by the wind as much as a smaller airplane. So that's basically the same logic as this. And that is the end.